All right. Welcome to the BizDev Podcast. Today's guest is Bill Hauser from the SMB.
Bill Hauser. No, just kidding.
Soon to be the Bill Hauser.
One day.
With his
We actually use that in a lot of our ad headlines at our agency. Like if we're marketing a lawyer, we'll put the Chicago personal injury lawyer in all caps on their Google ads and Facebook ads, because you can get away with that in advertising, but you can't get away with saying the best or top rated unless you back it up with proof. So that's a little workaround in our ads. Don't tell anyone, but you guys can tell people.
Well, yeah, today with the SMB team
Yep.
that you started. Can you give a brief description about your company? How'd you get started? What brought you to the SMB team, or just kind of how you started creating that?
Yeah. Okay. So, wow. So I'm doing sales. Maybe I'll go further back than that. How did I end up in sales? Because that's the key, right? To not needing investors, right? To fund your company is to know how to ask people for money, right?
Okay.
So there's tons of painful experiences that led to me learning the skill of asking people for large sums of money with no guarantees attached. So, I grew up racing dirt bikes, and after I raced dirt bikes, I went into music. So I started a band, and
what was the name?
Trust the Medic.
Okay.
So I started this band, Trust the Medic, after years of racing dirt bikes. I think it looks like the phone just pivoted. Give me 1 second. I think that the thing that was interesting was I was just really pursuing things that made me scared, right? So, I grew up jumping 100-foot jumps on my dirt bike, and eventually ran out of money doing that. My family did. My family went bankrupt.
And when's this?
This is probably like formally around 2010.
Okay.
So we went through, a pretty painful chain of experiences where, our house got repossessed. My family went through some severe problems. My parents got a divorce. Pretty much just ran out of money. That was the main problem. And so I was motivated in business primarily to prevent what had happened to my family. I wanted to create such a indestructible business that could become recession-proof. That this was an inkling in the back of my mind for. Damn, you always see Cardone doing this when he does Instagram Lives. You know what? We're going low. You can see his smelly feet, everyone. So you see my whole family just completely break apart because they didn't know how to run a business. They had a couple of good years in a good economy, and they just banked on that.
And what business was that?
Construction. So he was doing paving, and killing it. I mean, raking in thousands and thousands of dollars a week, like just straight margins. Like my dad would take us on trips. I mean, we had an in-ground pool in our backyard. We were looked at as well off by all my friends in my immediate vicinity. And personally, I think he just got comfortable, and he stopped spending money on marketing. That was one of the keys in the recession. People contract, and that was a big mistake. So I'm collecting all this data, right? I'm seeing my dad have all the success, then I'm seeing it all taken away when we go bankrupt. I'm seeing my family do so well when we had money, and then I'm seeing all these problems, just pop up out of nowhere.
And what age are you, roughly?
Around 18 when everything kind of
right
fell
out of high
apart.
school, you're kind of being told go to college,
Right.
and you're okay.
Yeah, at this point, if someone would have were to say that I would be this like obsessed individual with sales, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I thought I was going to be a singer. Before that, I thought I was going to be like this dirt bike, professional, which later I found out even if you're the best of the best, you don't make that much money. I mean, a couple of $1 million a year, how do you survive on that, As we were talking about before.
Yeah.
So, and it's short-lived, right? You can't be a dirt bike racer for 50 years. You got to give it up at some point. So, I'm collecting all this data, and eventually I realize I need a mentor. I realized that I had nobody in my life that could teach me what I needed to learn to not go through what my family went through, to not go through having everything taken away, creating this facade of a secure life, and then, having everything taken away. So, I go to college. My biggest regret in life is how hard I tried in college. I wasted so much time trying to impress professors.
Grades and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that was the worst decision I ever made, was spending that much time studying.
Were you always a good student?
Yeah, I mean, like, I graduated 3.8. I was honors. That was a waste of time too. No idea why I went honors. It was just to prove something to everyone. Like, I was the loud person in class. I'd ask 50 questions every class, like challenge the professor, like, just because I wanted to prove something. And then I graduated and I got a job, right? And I got a job as a underwriter at Chubb Insurance, which is like a Fortune 50 company. It was formerly Ace, which got acquired by Chubb. And so I'm doing, I get hired for underwriting, and within the first like week or two, everyone just starts saying like everyone on my team's like back talking me. I actually caught someone back talking me.
For what reason? Just because?
Saying that, like, this guy's never going to figure this out. I literally just couldn't do it. Like, it was like literally scraping my eyeballs out of my head. Like, it was so painful to just look at, surface level data and like have spreadsheets up and feel no attachment to a purpose and just be one of, 100,000 employees and not feel valued. So I literally quit in 2 weeks with no plan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
this is after you got the degree, and you're
right.
This is kind of what you went to school for, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I quit with no plan, and all my mom's hopes and dreams just went right down the toilet, because she, at that point in time, thought that was the meaning of life. Go to school, study, get a good job, and I threw that away. And I went through so many mental breakdowns in college. I had really bad anxiety problems, and I wrote a book on it called Worry 180, 240 pages, which is actually what I did after I quit at Ace, is I wrote that book on how I overcame anxiety. And
what was it called again?
Worry 180.
Okay.
I think the website's still up. It's actually a really good program. I just didn't market it. So the problem was I spent 8 months creating this book, Worry 180, thinking, I read the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, and by Tim Ferriss, and I thought that I could pull it off. I thought I could become this automated entrepreneur and, live remote, and that whole fantasy was sold to me. And spent 8 months putting together this book, thinking if I build it, they will come, and no one came. And ran out of money, completely ran out of money. And my mom loaned me like $5,000 to do this. I was like $10,000 in debt on a credit card.
Oh, wow.
I bought all these training courses to like on how to create a information product business. And did you know this? Did I ever tell you this?
I knew you wrote a book. I didn't know in this depth, though.
Yeah, so literally 8 months, dude. Like,
the process.
Picture that. 8 months every day, like alone at my mom's house, writing a book. like trying to become an entrepreneur. My mom is a freaking champion for like still believing in me like while I was doing it, because the book could have worked, but the flaw in my thinking was I thought it would just sell itself, right? So the big pain point was now through college, while I'm going through this complete uproot of my life, having everything repossessed, family completely broken apart, then having to cope with school, I'm like I eventually just become obsessed with like listening to like audio tapes and self-improvement things.
Okay.
And I didn't even notice that I was doing this. Like, so I'd bike to school every day. I lived right off campus. I'd bike to school and I'd listen to like Brian Tracy tapes. And I didn't tell anyone because I thought it was like
Weird.
really weird.
Okay.
Like really weird though. Like I told nobody. Like I was listening to like high performance communication habit podcasts, like weird niche shit that can we curse on this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, curse is fine.
So like Brian Tracy, I eventually get introduced to Grant Cardone, and I'm gathering all this data. I get the insurance job. I quit. Then I'm going through the Worry 180 book authoring process, and I launch the book. I'll never forget this night. Like I stayed up all night creating this PayPal store, and it's crazy how delusional I was to think that people would just buy it. And I launched it, and nothing happened. And then the reality was like an avalanche. It just fell on me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my God, I'm completely in debt. I'm completely out of money. Like my mom literally told me like you got to move out. Like, and my mom's like my best friend. Mm-hmm. And it's the best thing she ever told me. So then I moved in with my dad. My dad his business literally was 1/20th its size at that point. I mean, he had one helper.
Wow.
And he champed up and let me do his marketing, mm-hmm. which really was me doing some random odd jobs for him, like going picking up materials from whatever for a hardscaping job or like a driveway job, picking up concrete, and then I'd do like a 3/4 day, and then I'd sit on the computer and I'd learn like Google AdWords and I built him a website. I filmed the video for his business. I learned all these things my first time around, and then it worked really well for him. He started getting tons of phone calls and leads, but he didn't have the workforce to support the leads.
Okay.
So what happened was, he was pretty much like, dude, your marketing's working, but I don't really need the marketing anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, we're good now. I can't really handle any more marketing. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I've been doing all this self-development, private education, like, and then I'm like, how can I put all this to use? And every person I was like looking up to and listening to was saying, you have to learn sales to master business, right? You have to learn sales. You have to learn sales and marketing. Well, I'd already learned the marketing portion for my dad's business, and I saw how powerful internet marketing was. But then I was like, I don't know how to ask people to make a decision, like in anything. And it was just like a light switch. Like I was like, I need to master sales at all costs. So I applied to literally like 40 different jobs. I did like just way too in-depth research on so many companies in sales, and I saw this company called Yellow Pages. You could get paid like over $100,000, and they had all these like surface level job ads, and I got sold by it, and I had the interview.
Question: did you find the job offline, or?
I found it online.
Okay.
Yeah. And I applied. I had no sales experience. Completely lied on my interview. Like completely. Like, told them I was doing all this sales work for my dad, and I was just like,
Embellished.
yeah, like big time. And everyone lies on job interviews. I just know because now we interview like 5 people a week here. Every person that I've ever interviewed has lied in some way, whether they know it or not. They embellish things, but I like blatantly was like, I have sales experience when I didn't. But I think they believed in me because I was like crazy enough in the interview. I told them I wanted to make $400,000 in my first year with no experience.
Was that possible within that sales realm?
The sales manager laughed at me, and like when I told him I wanted to make $400,000 in the interview, he like went back, laughed at me, and he was like, and then I saw his eyes go up and like to the left, and he was actually like thinking, is that possible?
Doing the math. So is it straight commission?
It was like 80% commission, I'd say. It's like a maybe $40,000 base.
Okay. So they give you something and
right. So yeah. So I wanted to master this thing called sales, and then I go to YP, which is also known as yellowpages.com at the time. They had this big search engine marketing division where they sold Google ad services, which perfectly aligned with what I was doing for my dad.
Okay.
So I come into this with the mentality of, okay, this is going to be so easy. I'm just going to be selling business owners on what I did for my dad. Just show them my dad's website, show them what I did for my dad. And that's what I did for the first 6 months or so, is I just showed them what I did for my dad and said, do you want this? Do you want a better website? Do you want more leads on Google? Check out what I did. So it worked decently well for the first 6 months. And then eventually I realized I could master this. I didn't even know, but within the first 6 months, I was like number 1 in the entire company. And I was just like so focused on myself, focused on getting multiple clients a month.
But just on the sales team, number 1? Like within
out of 3,000 reps in the United States for yellowpages.com. And then at that point, I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm not even trying. So I knew I had a gift for sales at that point.
And was it mainly cold calling?
Oh, yeah.
Like kind of just calling different business owners saying, hey, your website could be better. Here's my services, following up.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, so it was cold calling. Now, I was going through some serious identity crises at this point. I didn't know what I wanted to be. Like, I was just working so tirelessly, just so hard. So I had this purpose I wrote down on my phone, like my life purpose, and the word systems was in it. And I didn't know how fascinated I'd be with systems at that point in time, but I kept reading up on the importance of like systems in business. So what happened was, for the first like 3 months or so, I was pretty good on the phone, but I hated it so bad. Like, oh my God.
What, just like the rejection or?
I just, yeah.
Okay.
The rejection, just everything about it. I absolutely hated
This is like 8-10 hours a day, straight calling.
Yeah. People having no idea who I was. It was really bad. So I think at that point, okay, what I did was I hired a cold caller in Bangladesh.
Okay.
So,
and you were allowed to do this?
No.
Okay.
This is completely against company policy. So I hired a cold caller in Bangladesh. I took everything I was doing on the phone that was working and I put it into a script. Did you know this? Did I ever tell you this?
I roughly, not in this detail. I knew it on the surface.
Okay.
I knew you hired an assistant.
Okay. That's how it was labeled.
Okay.
Was as an assistant.
Yeah. Okay.
Completely against the company's rules, though. So I hire this guy, cold caller named Tawheed. First, I had tons of failed cold callers before I found Tawheed. And I hired him. I had all these scripts. I spent hours every morning training him on the scripts because he had an accent.
Okay.
I'd like help him with his accent, like
Each
everything.
word's making sure he's pronouncing it right.
Everything. And so I do all this training, and then eventually I start just letting him do my calls for me. And dude,
The first touch.
when I learned I could pay someone to like do a task, and then I could do something else while he's doing that, everything changed. So I quadrupled my results. Then I started raising the standard for the company. So then people who had been there for years started going, well, what the heck? Like, he's doing this. But they didn't know I was outsourcing. They had no idea.
Gotcha.
They thought I was just like superhuman, but I was just working smarter and hard as hell. Like, I mean, I have 16-hour days in addition to working smarter. But unconsciously, the whole standard of the organization raised. Yeah, everyone's budgets started raising, especially in the Northeast offices and region. So, I ended up finishing my first year with no sales experience, number one in the entire company in net business, out of, again, 3,000 reps. So I got invited to President's Club, which was this, invitation only, like top 10 sales rep thing to all inclusive resort to California with the CEO of the company, of YP, and I accepted it. And 3 days before my flight was supposed to leave, I realized that I hated myself.
Okay.
And I didn't believe the product I was selling. And it hit me like nothing's ever hit me before. And I was like, holy crap, I became good at something that doesn't fulfill me. And it was like, I do not want to celebrate this. So 3 days before we were supposed to leave for the trip, I resigned from the company.
Wow. With a plan, of course, right?
No.
Okay.
No, part 2 of
Okay.
no plan. The general concept was I was going to start my own company and provide a better service, because I knew what I was capable of from what I did with my dad. So I knew I could do advertising for businesses. So that's what I did. Is I completely started from scratch. I was at Parktown, which is where we met.
Okay.
And started cold calling in the Ur pub, which may be where we met, or maybe in your room with Sunji. But that's where I started, like just cold calling in the Ur pub.
So, like, you quit 3 days before this event. Like, what was your next move? Was like, oh, I'm going to start a company, or is like you take 2 weeks off from working so much for years?
No, I never worked harder than right when I quit. I thought I was working hard.
Okay.
It's different work, though, when it's all or nothing. Like, it was not all or nothing doing sales and having a base and having a company to shield you. All or not, like what I'm realizing in entrepreneurship, it's you get paid a premium to take all the emotional risk. I mean, that is like, I can't work harder than Drew Cannon on my team. Drew sits right there in our office. Drew is the hardest working person I've ever met. But what I'm realizing is working hard is different than taking all of the emotional burden and risk of a company. It's a different kind of work. It's emotional baggage and not emotional baggage in like a
Like your
weird
emotional
way.
bank has
Right.
like some type of weight to it.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So it's just a different weight to my per hour use of time. It's like there's more intensity, because if things go wrong for Drew, he still gets paid.
And he looks at you like something went wrong.
Right.
Bill, now what?
Right. All of the worst problems filter to the top, as Elon Musk says. So now that we have 10 employees, all of the worst problems filter their way up to me. But long story short, I quit with no plan. I used the week that they were at this retreat, because the reason I quit really was because I wanted to plan my course of action and have them be distracted. I wanted all the top management to be distracted as
Okay.
I pivoted because I was their key employee,
Gotcha.
like for sales. So they were going to do whatever they could to try and distract me. I mean, I had calls every day for like 2 weeks after I put in the resignation of them trying to sell me to come back.
It's
And
probably pretty hard to, where you just completely already know,
done.
yeah,
Yeah, dead.
nothing they could do to.
Yeah, once it's a question of like ethics for me.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was ethically pushing the best product I could. Every word they said was yeah, I'll think about it, yeah. But I wasn't absorbing any of it. So then it was 6 to 8 months of just self-belief. It was.
This is you starting the SMB team. Like, how'd you come up with the idea, or how did you, hey, I wanted to do and create this new company? Was that already deep down? You've always wanted to do your own thing, or?
No, I've never. So like, not until the success at YP did I realize I could run my own business because everyone was following me.
Okay.
I didn't know I had leadership ability, which is probably my greatest gift, is the ability to bring certainty out of chaos and make people see where they're going and clarify what's important to them, which is a form of sales, but different than B2B sales, right?
And with the SMB team, what if you explain to our listeners exactly what you guys do, or
Right.
what's the company, like, elevator pitch?
Yeah, so we help businesses grow through intelligently crafted digital marketing plans that work for their industry.
Okay.
Right? So what we do is we silo our company into 4 niches. So we have legal services, which means we do marketing for companies that provide legal services.
Gotcha.
We do marketing for home services companies. So those are contractors, remodelers, roofers.
Okay.
Healthcare. So we'll do marketing for doctors, dentists, etc. Pain management practices. And then last, we have financial services. So we'll do marketing for companies that offer loans to people, financial advisors, investment advisors.
Okay.
So that when people go to Google and type in whatever it is, one of these 4 niches service they provide, they show up high on Google. So for our biggest niche right now is legal services.
Okay.
So we do marketing for attorneys nationwide. That's what we're becoming known for right now. But that's only going to be one of many niches that we dominate in the future, because our systems can be applied to probably, at this point in time, maybe like 50 niches, 50.
The back-end systems that you've created.
Right. It just so happens that we've applied our systems to more law firms than we have other niches.
Okay.
But it works for healthcare, contractors, and financial services. So the long-term plan is to build niche brands. So like SMB is a holdings company.
Okay.
That provides digital marketing.
I'm sorry, what's it stand for again?
Small, medium business team.
Okay.
Yeah. Small, medium-sized business team.
Gotcha. And the niches, this is a holding company?
Correct. That's why it's such a generalized name. So like SMB. So I spent 8 months. It's funny, 8 months writing the book, 8 months creating the strategy for SMB. Did not sell for 8 months after I quit.
Oh, okay.
That's when I created SMB University, which is the sales training university. I know you're going to ask about.
Yeah.
It's about 6.5 hours of training content with PDFs, scripts, objection handlers, everything for free on Vimeo as of now. But I created SMB University. I created all these different products that we were going to offer: PPC management, SEO, social media marketing. Pretty much just created like the systems for all of these different services. But really, I was riding on a big bonus check from YP. I quit right after I got my bonus, pretty much.
Gotcha.
So, looking back, I spent way too much time planning. Like, way too much, because I had, a lot of money in my bank.
Mm-hmm.
So But in not having income for that long, I, again, ran out of money. And I had to start selling. So I came from the perspective of, I can spend all the time I want to like create this awesome company with multiple silos, and
Getting buried by the details.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened is I got so in the details that I didn't sell for like 8 months. The best thing that ever happened was that I ran out of money.
Okay.
Best thing, because it put me from want into need mode. So in my first month, it was crazy how the universe like just aligned. Was like, so I'm completely out of money. And the next week on Monday, I get a text from this guy that I was prospecting at YP out of the blue. He's like, hey man, it was like a $6,000 a month prospective client. And I'm like, this is the universe telling me to go and sell. The universe gave me that gift and said, hey, the money's out there. Someone's asking you right now. You've done enough planning.
Gotcha.
And I ran with it. I drove to his place the next day. I signed him up. I kid you not. Within about 33, I have it calculated somewhere. It was like 33 or 35 days. I signed up 11 accounts.
Wow.
So it went from no sales. This is how like my brain works too, which concerns me sometimes. It's like all or nothing.
So once you got the first one, you're like, proof of concept, 8 months of me diving deep in details. First client, then you went all in to selling.
Right.
Okay.
The interesting thing was those 8 months were really me just selling myself on the vision. So when I sold all these people, our first accounts, almost all of them stuck for over a year. I mean, a lot of them are still with us now, which is hard to do in digital marketing because it's a highly commoditized niche. People get called multiple times per week from other digital marketing vendors. They get told lies that make them want to consider their options, and very, very inundated niche, very competitive. But a lot of those clients are like longtime advocates of ours now because I sold them on the vision. I didn't sell them on where I was at that current point in time. I sold them on where we were going to be. And the interesting thing is once I ejected myself from the day-to-day of building their campaigns, they were all okay with it because I had already told them where we were going as a company. I didn't make – a lot of people get stuck in business because they trade their time for other people's money. And then they get stuck there because they feel bad to tell someone, hey, I can't trade my time for money anymore. I have to hire someone.
Gotcha.
But in the first 11 accounts I signed up, they all knew I was not going to be managing their campaigns because I sold them on our systems. I sold them on how we were going to create niche-specific silos, this whole thing. So when it was time for me to eject myself, they were like waiting for it. They were like, oh, cool. Like you finally hired someone.
So another question that comes up, you say you're from a sales background, and within sales, it's a lot of overcoming objections. When starting SMB Team, what were some of maybe if you can give one example of a major objection, whether it was with hiring somebody, maybe firing somebody, or just that emotional bank, you had to reach into it and take care of an objection that maybe in the sales role you didn't have to do, but now as a CEO, owner, entrepreneur, that was a different type of objection you had to answer.
Wow.
Sorry, it's a pretty long question.
No, it's just tough because there's so many objections. So you start in sales, right? And then you have day-to-day objections, right? People saying too much money, push this off, don't have the time.
Call me next week.
Call me next quarter, next week, next century. So the biggest objection in the last, are you saying last 6 months
or just
in the
with
entire
the history of the company as you navigated to grow this company? What was
interesting? objection that like the world gave us. I'd say the biggest objection that we've had to encounter is 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 people not believing in us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you answer that objection?
So before I answer that, let me clarify what that means.
Okay.
People not believing in us, right? When you are a startup company in an inundated marketing sphere, internet marketing, where there's no barrier to entry, anyone can open up their laptop and start doing marketing for people. There's how-to videos, there's tutorial videos. The problem was people didn't know why they should trust us as their go-to company, right? That's the toughest thing. Does that make more sense? Like,
Yeah.
Because I know that was vague, me saying like people not believing in us. So how do we overcome that? Was by I would say the way we overcame that objection is by selling, again, not where we were, but where we were going.
So you kind of sold them the vision of the company. Hey, we were growing. Hey, we were developing systems. Hey, we are going to make this process better for you. And they had an upfront expectation of that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you kind of painted a picture for them to understand the services you're providing.
So there's that, yeah.
Okay.
But more specifically, if I reflect right now, it's actually in our knowledge of their industry. So in the first year, I spent $12,000 on this thing called IBIS World, which is this research database
that lawyers use, or for what, or just
for any industry.
Okay.
It's phenomenal. So IBIS World is this industry research compilation company that does research on specific B2B industries and B2C industries.
Okay.
And it gives you industry reports.
Gotcha.
The information in these reports were literally what made us come off like really unique to people, because we would not sell digital marketing. Like, yeah, we'd sell them on the vision of where we were going, our core values, things that were a little less tangible than the day-to-day operations of the company. But more importantly, the thing that made people trust us was we would give them insights about their industry they hadn't thought of before. Hey, I know you're a personal injury lawyer. Have you thought about excluding the top 30% income brackets on your Facebook or Google ads because your average client who gets into a car crash and is going to go to Google and type in car accident lawyer near me, car accident lawyer Philadelphia, would you agree that your average client is not within the top 30% income brackets? They'd always go, yeah, like how'd you know that? And we'd go, well, we're actually partnered with IBIS World, and the reason why we're reaching out to you is, and I call this the insight sales model, right? It's insight sales model is reaching out to someone rather than saying, oh, we have a service that can provide you XYZ benefit and just templatizing it for every niche. We would reach out with a very specific insight. Insight being, hey, we've noticed that a lot of attorneys nationwide are wasting at least 50% of their budget on the top 30% income brackets for PI, personal injury. Are you interested in hearing how we can save you 50% of your marketing budget on wasted clicks on Google?
And with proven data to back it.
Right. So when you come in with an insight like that, when you come in with an insight of doing such deep research on a company,
it's a different sell.
It's completely different. So like we reached out to this medical malpractice firm, one of the biggest in the Northeast. They should have never chose us at that time. Like all logic said they should not have chosen us as their marketing company. And now we manage all their marketing.
Wow.
Huge firm. Because we entered the conversation with such deep research on their company and their industry, to the point where they didn't even ask what we did. Like a lot of our first clients didn't even ask how we generated business. They were just like, I want to work with you, man. Like, you're just so ahead of the curve. Like, you know all the trends. You know what we do in-house. Like, for example, there's a lot of law firms that don't litigate in-house.
Okay.
So litigate in-house. I didn't know what that meant at first, but I did research to figure that out. So when I proactively bring that up in a call, like, hey, do you guys litigate these med mal cases in-house?
Mm-hmm.
That phrase right there,
That hits a light bulb for them, where
that's industry jargon.
That your typical advertise agency might not know, and you kind of stand out in the
Right.
here.
Hey, like, so I'm assuming you litigate med mal cases in-house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, saying something like that, they feel like they're talking to
another person in their industry.
Right.
Yeah.
So that it boggles my mind that some people would sign up with us without having any knowledge of how we generated leads. They would just want to know that we got them. That's number one rule in how to win friends and influence people.
Okay.
Seek first to understand, then to be understood, right? Like, that's the number one rule in any relationship book. Seek first to understand the person that you're trying to persuade before you seek to be understood by them. So that's where we entered from. But I'm actually, more than the vision, it was us understanding their industry, which just required research, which is why I'm such a proponent of smart sales.
Not just
pound your head, kill yourself sales with no intention and no insight to pique someone's interest, right?
That's awesome, man. That's some really in-depth, not only from a business owner standpoint. I think any of our listeners who are in the sales realm of things, they can take, a different approach. Maybe you've been struggling with this account, or could you give any advice to our listeners that might be on the fence of starting their own company? Something that you would have liked to learn within, while you're at Yellow Pages, you didn't expect, or can you give advice to someone who's looking to start their company today?
Okay. Well, the first thing you said, if you're on the fence about starting a company, absolutely don't start the company. If you are on the fence at all, because the amount of pain that you have to endure in the initial phase is like, you literally have to come into it with the mentality of there is no plan B. Like, whatever you can do to not have a plan B, do.
Boats burned.
Yeah.
Burned
because I think of it like, this is a big insight I had recently, is plan B, they call it a safety net, but I call it a disaster net. Plan B to me is a disaster. It is a net that will attract disasters into your life. Because plan B makes you feel less committed to plan A. So, like, I went into this with just plan A. Either I make this work or I die and go broke.
Wow.
Like, I mean, that's
very...
I mean, that if you want to go from 0 to, where we're at now, which is growing every month. I mean, we're going to probably hit $300K per month in billings, like, per month by December.
How long have you been in business?
Probably like, what's this? A year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now we're doing $160,000 a month. After my first month, I did 10K when I signed up those like 11 clients or so. It was like maybe like 9K ish. Like, the bottom line is, dude,
if you're on the fence,
plan B is a failing plan.
Yeah.
That's number one. The next thing I didn't expect was the people side of it. Because since I'm very systems oriented, I did not think that managing people, it would be as challenging and not clear, and there's no right way, and nobody's perfect. Nobody in this company is perfect for what they're doing. Everyone has a dream of that. Hey, they wish they could be doing a little more here. Everyone has flaws, including myself. It's kind of like a marriage or like a long-term relationship. Like, you will never find someone that is perfect. And every employee is not perfect in their role. As soon as I accepted that and then pivoted that to, okay, so what will I tolerate and what will I not tolerate with employees? Well, number one, I will not tolerate breach of ethics. Soon as that happens, there is no, there's not even a handshake. I mean, it's like just get out. So breach of ethics, negativity. That's it. Other than that, people need at least 12 to 18 months for you to determine where their skills are. It is a long process. It's just the people side of it is not what I expected. And then third is, this is vital. If you're looking to get into business, not thinking of plan B, all or nothing, burn the ships, understand that the biggest asset you can have is learning how to constantly upgrade your problems and look for problems and look for new problems. So we just hired a full-time sales guy. Someone signed up for a big, $11,000 website with us. Next day is like, oh, I want to back out. And he can, because there's a cool down clause in our contracts. And I tell Dave comes into the office, he's like, oh man, I just signed this deal, now the guy wants to back out. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. It's a new problem. We've never had this problem before. Think of why this problem's happening. And I told him, I said, think why this problem's happening. You pushed him to make a decision. That was not an easy decision for him to make. Now, ask yourself this, Dave. Would you rather have the problem of having two people sign our contract and pay us and then get cold feet and then have to resell them? Or would you rather have the opposite problem, which is you not push people to make a decision and have two people that make you stay in this confused state for 3 weeks, not hearing from them, wondering if they're going to call you, in this no man's land with the lead? Or would you rather have them make a decision, get a little scared, and then have to resell them? And that's exactly what happened with the guy. We got on a call with him. We're like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, here's examples of websites we've done. We're top rated here. But what's going on, buddy? And he got quoted $1,000 less on another website. I'm like, dude, we told you not to choose us for price. He's like, all right, you're right, dude. I'm super pumped to be working with you guys.
Wow. And
he had already paid us, so, I mean, we just continued on with the work. But I'd rather have that problem. Here's another controversial problem we had last week. We brought on so many accounts last month. We brought on like 19 accounts last month.
Wow.
Which is really hard to do in digital marketing. When you're selling long-term relationships, that we missed multiple onboarding calls.
Wow.
We literally, we scheduled an onboarding call with someone who's super excited to be working with us, and we had another onboarding call that went over, or another client call that went over. We've never had that problem before. We solved it. Now everyone gets multiple calendar reminders with 10-minute pre-reminders and all that stuff. So we solved the problem permanently. But and a guy on our team was like really let down about it, that he missed the meeting. I was like, dude, this is a new problem. What do you expect? We brought on 19 accounts in a month. Like, this is good. I'd rather have that problem than have no onboarding calls and be twiddling our thumbs,
Yeah.
So be okay with new problems, and never penalize your team for making mistakes. Mistakes are where all growth happens.
The learning process.
That's probably the biggest thing I had to get over, is I was such a micromanager for the first 6 months to a year that I would take it personally if someone made a mistake. And then I realized, as soon as I started letting my team have free reign, they made less mistakes. As soon as I started putting my faith in my team, they fucking stepped up. They literally 2 times the quality. As soon as I let them, because I used to audit everything that was released by us before we'd release it. So
that's hard.
Let people make mistakes.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I have a few more questions before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
The one is, as we mentioned earlier, the SMB University. Would you mind telling our listeners what that is, what it's about?
Yeah, so SMB University is a combination of the insight sales model, which I spoke on,
Okay.
about presenting a valid insight that's industry related to someone, combining insight sales and consultative sales with brute force, like cold calling sales.
Okay.
So SMB University is a merge of these two philosophies: how to be extremely persistent with being an insightful, credible, trustworthy consultant.
And
So
and is SMB University for any type of salesman?
Yeah.
Any type of industry?
Yep.
If the two knowledges can come together.
Right.
Okay.
And the only reason I made it, which is why it's so good, is I made it to summarize everything I learned in like 4 or 5 years of doing sales. But more so, I did it to train my future salespeople. So it contains everything in it that I would feel great. And by the way, my new sales guy who I hired last month full time
Mhm.
closed 19 deals.
Wow.
And the only training ad was SMB University.
You didn't have any sales experience in the past.
No sales experience prior. 0. So like it literally contains everything I would give an employee of mine and trust them to do without any direction by me. So it's everything from, cold calling scripts, follow-up reasons, follow-up methods, phone, handwritten letter, like everything. Needs analysis scripts, closing lines, closing objection handlers, cold call objections, right? Because they're very different. A close objection is more thoughtful than a "I'm too busy," get me off the phone objection, which is really just a complaint. So it distinguishes all these different steps in the sales cycle with scripts and training modules with me behind camera for 6.5 hours, which is fun.
Just 2 more questions here. I know you said earlier that you had to find, I think you said, a mentor or someone to look up to. So the question is, what individual in your life has been the most inspiring to you and why?
Well, I'm going to answer the first one because I can see the one before it. The biggest aha moment.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so spend more money.
Spend more money.
Yeah.
On Gucci belts and
no,
Yeezys?
no. Wow, thank you for making me clarify.
Yeah.
Spend more money on your team and spend more money on yourself and your company. Like the reason, as soon as we started rapidly growing, is when I started putting out some shekels.
Okay.
So I mean, we're spending $16,000 a month on our own advertising budget right now. Like,
wow.
Yeah, like spend more money, but not on stupid stuff, right? Don't spend like
Lambos, Ferraris.
Right.
Those are cool.
Yeah, no, they're not. Not until you've made it.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I don't spend money on. I spend maybe like $2,000 a month on like living expenses. Like
Wow.
Like nothing. Like maybe 3. Like depending on if I go out to dinner with Emily a couple times. Everything else is in personal development, advertising, team. Everyone here gets paid well. Like, I'm not a proponent of pinching pennies. I was for the first 8 months, and that's why we kind of, to my standards, were kind of flatlining for those first 8 months. Okay. Sorry, I had to answer that one because I saw it on your sheet.
No, that's good. So back
and then individual.
Most inspiring to you.
Wow.
Why?
I mean, the first person that comes to mind is Grant Cardone.
Uncle G.
Yeah. I'm not blessed to have, at this current point in time, I was not brought up with like legitimate mentors, face-to-face mentors that I can I'm talking people who are making 100 to 500 million to $1 billion a year and really making an impact and doing that with values and ethics and intensity. So I had to seek mentors virtually. So it's got to be Grant Cardone teaching me sales. It's got to be Brendan Burchard and Tony Robbins teaching me about the energy that you need to bring to success, and it's probably there's so many books I've read on systems like E-Myth and Traction and a lot of others. Principles by Ray Dalio. Ty Lopez, I know a lot of people criticize him, but changed my life a lot.
Random fact: I saw him in Chicago.
Really?
Yes, I was with my girlfriend and he was with 2 bodyguards walking down. I didn't realize it was him till he passed me. I was like, Ty Lopez having a night.
That's so funny.
It's funny.
Yeah, I took his 67 Steps course. I mean, you can criticize him all you want. Buy one of his courses and then
Got good
criticize
stuff.
him. I mean, dude, wow. I mean, his 67 Steps course opened my mind. That's probably the main reason I'm in business right now.
Wow.
Is me taking that course. God, I mean that literally takes everything that your parents have taught you and flips it on its head. You know, takes you from little thinking to big thinking. You know, it is nuts. And that people want to criticize someone who spent that much time, thought, and energy compiling all of this wisdom from the smartest people in the world. The list goes on and on though, because I read a book a week, so constantly listening to podcasts. But Grant Cardone comes to mind. You know, he's been the biggest kick in the ass, I'd say, in terms of me actually putting the rubber to the road.
Awesome. Well, last question: if someone wants to learn more about you, get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
That's a trick question. I'm not good at text at all.
Or like your website.
No, yeah. So the SMB Team website, that's a good way to get me to contact you. Is pretend you're a lead. Say we're interested in what you provide. You know, interested in your services. But yeah, SMB Team, small, medium business team, SMBteam.com. My Instagram, Bill Hauser Business. Facebook, Bill Hauser. And I have URL, billyhauser.com, but
awesome.
Don't go there. It's stupid.
I'll check it out.
I'm still trying to buy billhauser.com, but it's owned by this like medical foundation, and I reached out to them a million times, and they never get back to me. So, yeah. So Instagram, Facebook, SMBteam.com, and maybe I'll get back to you.
Awesome. Bill Hauser.
Weekends, I'm more responsive.
Great, man. Good
My
stuff.
friend.
Yeah.
Thank you, Edwin.
All
This
right.
is great. And I have about 10 questions for you. No,
Okay. We'll do that the next podcast.
Awesome.
Bill, thank you so much, man.